Come on, I want to show you. The Easy T got its wheels. Pure treasure.
Whoa.
I know they're mismatched just perfectly. They are a set of old Krager front runner 4 inches or something like that. And they're slightly mismatched, but they're still cool. They go on different sides of the car, so who cares? And the backs are some off-brand Krager copies, but what I like about them is how deep the barrels are.
That's a deep barrel.
Mm-hmm. Should be awesome.
Where'd you get these from?
So Alan had this set in his collection of wall hanger wheels, and then that set was on your dad's Studebaker when we got it, and I traded him the other set of wheels that I had Krista pick up in Philly that time. Because the lug pattern was wrong on your dad's car. And then the ultimate discovery is I need adapters to put them on the car. And guess what Alan had on the shelf of his place?
Good old Alan, right?
Look at this.
Oh my gosh.
And now, new old stock Eelco brand, which is, in my opinion, super cool old gasser cards.
How cool is the design?
Look at the little VWs. And these are new old adapters from back in the day. Ford. This is Ford small pattern. Oh, they're not right. So it's not. These aren't Ford small. These must be Dodge. Close, but that's not it. See if these back ones are.
So that hooks to the...
So these must be Chevy, even though it says Ford on the box. Because I know the back row is Ford. Let's see, here's what made me think they were Ford. The old in stock mark. Must be down here. 3874 is for early VW 5 bolt to prior to VW 5 bolt. Ford and Chrysler 4.5. That's what I thought. I know the wheels are actually. So maybe these aren't what was on the box. Wait, there's two different ones in there.
Oh, they're each different?
Appear to be slightly different. Aha!
Really?
So one is right. It's crazy how they're different lug patterns.
How could you tell it just by looking at that for a second?
So these two are the same, but they're wrong. Yeah, they're wrong. So this must be Chevy. Because that's just how that wheel fit on your dad's cars. The Chevy rotors. Anyway.
Almost Christmas, right?
Yeah, I'll make it work.
Can you use the other one for something else?
Yeah, these are super common. Chevy, VW Chevy's like what you need. Anyway, we'll get the adapters. Get them on there. They're awesome, aren't they?
The box? Oh.
Just shiny enough and just dirty enough. Let's go ride bikes. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you came back. Are you sick of watching all that grinding and welding? Because I'm sick of seeing it. So maybe today we'll try something a little bit different. I'll tell you about all the problems I ran into and all the stuff I fixed on the 1970 Barry Mini T VW pan, shortened for the Dune buggy. So when the pan was shortened, there was a rule book to be followed called the assembly manual. And the further I go with restoring the work that was done in 1970, I'm pretty sure that not every rule was followed of the rule book. So today, we're going to review the rule book. And this book is just amazing. Look at the cover art and the Barry Mini T logo. Obviously sort of a rip-off on Hot Wheels. I love it. So I'm going to get to the spot where it tells the measurements. So it breaks everything down. Can we see this? Step by step. So when the chassis is for a Beetle, the pedal assembly is all the way up here. Melissa, can you show here? So this panel, maybe if you come around. This panel, or where the pedals bolt on, and the pedals would normally be there because when you're driving a Beetle, you sit right here. But in the Barry Mini T, when we tried it out the other day, my butt was about right here, so you couldn't reach the pedals there. So in the kit, it has you move the pedals back. But what I'm looking for is to see if the builder followed the specs that Barry set up about where these measurements should be and how far back they should be moved. So you can see in the drawing, the pedal assembly gets moved back one block, and the question I have is, how far is that supposed to be? The question. The question is, so here are the measurements. So this first cut, which is this block, should be 8 3/4. Does anybody have a bet? Is it 8 3/4? Show them the block so they can lay their bets down. This one. You ready? You ready? 7 and I'll be generous and say 7 3/4. So there's a good chance, just to be fair, that this guy was tall. So if he was 6'2", if I were 6'2" and building this back in the day, I'd have added an inch to the leg space. Problem is, I'm average size, not short. Average. Actually, a fun fact is that I'm about 5'8". I want to say 175, but let's just say 190 for the video. And that's the average American male. Crash test dummies are made in the size of this guy. So I'm a crash test dummy. So anyway, I think that 1 inch, let me remeasure this here. So 8 3/4, if I go from the firewall instead of this seam, it's at 8 1/4. So it's only a 1/2 inch off. So I'm gonna say this is okay. I can live with that. But when I started to look at what I had from the original car before I disassembled it, I remembered that it had this groovy modified shifter in it. So this shifter has been cut and bent. And I thought, why did he bend it? See, this would have normally been straight. And then I remembered the first time I sat in the car, this shifter was actually under the dashboard, which led me to my suspicions about the next measurement, which is how far back the shifter location was moved. So if you look at the slice it up chart again, you can see that C used to be right there. A, which is where the pedals on, were there. C was there, so we flip-flopped A and B. Now we should flip-flop C and D, but what I want to know is what is the length from there to C. So I go back to this page. And the length back to C appears to be 25 inches. 25 and 3/4. Show it to him again, Melissa. We'll put our bets down. Is it 25 and 3/4 from here to there? Ready? Drum roll. Oh, not even close. So I'm laughing because you know what that means? That means that I have to cut this thing apart and move stuff again. Because I'm not super picky, like I said on the bottom plate where I repaired it. It's okay with me if it doesn't have those embossed lines on it and that this isn't a concours restoration, but I can't stand the idea of not being able to use a proper shifter. And I happen to have a collection of vintage shifters that I can't wait to use. We can show them to you another time. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this back the right amount. And that sounds really complicated, but here's why it's not. The welds that the former owner did, the guy whose ex-wife was named Easy, these welds are really porous and they didn't penetrate very far, so they're not all the way through. So I planned on cutting each of these and re-welding them anyway. But what I'll do now is I will cut this section out and reverse it to the front and move this section back. And I know it seems like an awful jigsaw puzzle and probably seems scary to people that don't cut things apart a lot. But the truth is, if I do the trick I showed you when I did the bottom plate where I grind the edge of the cut off at a 45, this is already grounded at 45. And it's ready to be welded in, but I'm waiting because I had to construct all this stuff inside. But if I do my welding properly, it'll be as strong as it was. And again, welding experts can, of course, get on here and tell me what percentage I'm wrong. It doesn't matter. This survived with his really light-duty, too cold, non-penetrating welds its entire lifetime until it met me. 1970 until 2023 or 4. So I'm confident that if I re-weld it with a more penetrating, stronger weld, we'll be fine. So anyway, it's going to be like a quilt. and would it be proper to find another pan, cut tunnel sections out, and redo it? Maybe, but then I have to ask the question that's always should be asked is, does this car, the body, this, and all my visions for it, deserve or merit that much more money and work? And my answer is no. If I can make it safe and sort of bring me the feeling I want from it, and then when I'm done with it and move it on to somebody else and bring them joy for the rest of the time they own it, I'm kind of doing what I'm here to do. I'm not here to win car shows. I'm not here to make other people happy. I'm here to enjoy going back through something that was done and creating something that I see that started out as something that was their dream and became ruins. I'm going to take the ruins and make my dream out of it. And then when I'm done with it, which I have a hard time letting go of cars, obviously, but when I'm done with it, the next person can do what they want with it and to it. But the thing that I'll know is, even though it's quilted together, which by the instructions it's meant to be quilted anyway, it'll at least be right by the standard I was willing to, not capable of, willing to achieve to put this thing back on the road. So I suspected that needed to be moved back. Now I know. Let me show you some of the stuff that's in this book. It's awesome. So I'm pretty sure I researched a little bit when I got the kit. I think it started in 1968 or 67, maybe probably 68. But you know, in the manual, there's all these cool studio photographs that they use. This one's hilarious. Look where the guy's legs are, and all that's underneath where he's at is solid floor pan. But it's just a great picture. But in the back of the assembly manual is a catalog of cool stuff you could get when you're building your Barry Mini T, and the prices And the kit parts too, like there were different versions of the kit. This is the only part of this book that was harmed before I got it. Catalog. It says Cata, but I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead and say it said catalog. so anyway, so apparently these are some of the kits that they offered, which is an awesome GT40. No, that's a buggy seat. Melissa said, "Is that a baby seat? It's a buggy seat." So here's what the suggested build looked like back in the day, and I have the top assembly for it, and these little windbreaker things that are on here, and all those parts too. And it should be cool. And I'm going to do the interior exactly like this. Not much padding. It was a great looking car when it was built right, in my opinion. And then these are all the cool accessories. They sold exhaust kits for them that were chrome. I think you can still buy this buggy exhaust. Not from Barry, but from other companies.
What's the price on it now, do you think?
Well, here, an all chrome set is $60.75. I guarantee you now that would be at least $300 or $400. And it was cool when I got this car. It was pretty complete. It even had this stick-on Barry Mini T Talbot mirror. It has a little tiny suction device there to hold it to the windshield. Sorry about my gross ripped up fingers.
I was like, ew.
And the car had all this stuff with it. I was really trying to find the hood ornament, and I couldn't find one anywhere, but I found stuff to make one.
$5.75.
I would buy 20 of them for $5.75. And it shows the upholstery kit, the carpet kit.
Like
Barry Mini T-shift knob. Yep, this is all stuff, if you were building your kit, you would pick through here and decide what you needed or wanted with it. Wiring harness. Key fob. Not that you're ever going to break down, but tow bar. A cool version somebody built here with no tall windshield. It has this little wraparound windshield. Pretty neat.
You always talk about how expensive nuts and bolts are. How much would those be?
This nut and bolt kit, probably. If I went to the hardware store to get that packet of nuts and bolts, it'd probably be 60 to 80 bucks. And it was $5.60. And then I think that this car that I got was this kit because it has the roof with it. So it would be kit B. And originally it was $864.41 and another $904 if you wanted it metal flake. And the one that I have was not metal flake. It was a solid orange color underneath the cool green paint that it is now. Pretty interesting stuff. It makes me nostalgic because looking at this era of stuff again, like I said before, is like for me feeling like a young kid seeing all the neighbor hoodlums driving around in their 70s vans and 60s vans with shag carpet doing whatever they're doing in there. Not that I was jealous, but it looked like they were having fun. I wasn't. I love this. I love that logo. So in the last video, it starts to get confusing because I'm just kind of figuring out this process. In the last video, I was doing the welding to take the extra length out of the one side. I hope y'all remember because it's so important that the chassis was crooked by about a ½ an inch or 3/4 of an inch. And I added to it on this side. And then the floors were all super rusted out here, and then I had made those patches. And in the second video, I showed you that, watch you don't kill yourself on these parts, but I won't hurt myself. I showed you in the first video, when I patched the first hole, all the mounts for what I said were the missing clutch tube. And since then, if you look in here, I've installed a clutch tube. That's what this is. And that goes right up to where the pedals will poke in through there. And then passes through the tunnel. And comes all the way out at the back here. So if you follow along, it goes all the way through the tunnel. And comes out right here. This is the flex tube that takes you from the chassis. Here's the other end of my tube that I put in. And then this is the tube. This is the piece of housing that takes it to the transmission. And remember, in the Volkswagen Beetle or Barry Minity, the engine and transmission are in the back. And then the other thing that I discovered when I was working on it were the emergency. This is where the emergency brake goes. And the cables come out and go to each wheel. They go through here. The tube goes in, it comes out here, and then the cable goes to each wheel. For the cable, the emergency brake on these cars is cable driven. That's why it's for emergencies if the hydraulic system goes out. So I had to construct and reattach the tubing for that.
Is that the only thing that comes out of that tube?
Yeah, the emergency brake cable comes out of there. It's a flexible line that has a cable that goes right into the drum and activates the drum brakes with a lever instead of hydraulic fluid. So that part's finished. So that I took the rest of the brake assembly off because I'm going to tidy this up. It had really been mangled by the first builder. And again, not criticism. He did what he had to do to build the car to enjoy it probably on the weekends for 40 years, 50 years.
Do you know who owned this?
The guy that owned this car was a maintenance guy at Hershey Park. And we're in Pennsylvania, and Hershey Park's a big thing here. I don't know if people around the world or country know where Hershey Park is, but it's an amusement park. So the guy that built this, don't be afraid to let your kids go on the rides. The guy that built this originally was a maintenance guy at an amusement park. So this is all finished. I didn't close this hole up because I suspected that this was wrong. And all this does is this will move back, and then underneath this, the shifter runs this lever, and that's how the gears are selected in a Volkswagen transmission. So if I push forward, pull this way, it rolls this way. I push forward, it moves the lever, moves this shaft back, and that switches the transmission into first gear. Pull this way, it pulls it forward, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear, seventh, eighth, ninth. There are only 4 speeds. I was teasing about the rest. But anyway, this goes in through the tunnel. There's a hole in here with a bushing. It didn't have a bushing. I have a bushing for it. But I'm not going to put this back in because when I move this back, I have to make this shorter again. So I left these holes open so I'd have access to that. And I knew I was probably going to be moving this again. And then these are my pieces that go back in the puzzle. And this one's important because it has the VIN number on it. And that's, I'm sure people will know, or if you don't know, VIN numbers are how we register cars with the state. So that's what's finished. And then in the other video, I showed you that the floors were what was called oil canning. I can show you an actual oil canning. Move this out. The term oil canning comes from how these old oil cans worked. Nice, right? Old tools are so much more satisfying. How can you beat that? But when you put flat sheet metal in it, and again, I own that these panels could have had beads rolled into them just like the floor, but it's not worth that to me. What it needs to be is strong and proper, and it is strong and proper. But because they're flat panels, and they didn't have enough shape. They wanted the oil can. I can probably still make this one do it. I don't want to spill my drink, but if I do this, if I push on it super hard, it'll still oil can, but it stays down. When you get in and out of the car, it's not going to be organic. So I fixed that, and to fix it, all I did was take a piece of a 2x4 and, you know, basically stretch it, put shape into it, which means I took a 2x4 and beat it with a hammer down. And again, would they do that at Chip Foose's shop? No. Is it 100% the proper coach builder way to do it? No. But this is a 70 Berry Mini T, not a Lamborghini or an old Ferrari. Will these floors ever oil can going down the road? No. It won't be a problem. And actually, I'm really happy with how all this came out compared to what it looked like earlier. This side's finished with all the finished grinding of the welds and stuff. This is how all my finished work will look. These welds have been welded over 2 passes, and then just the high spots ground smooth, and I'll do the same on these. See how these stick up? It's because they didn't penetrate very far when you're each inside. I can still feel the old cut. And I'll redo all that welding like this. And you can see the penetration here. I don't know if you can show them where it was cut in half. If I get a flashlight. See down inside here? This amount of weld that you see on this cut, this is the main cut across the thick piece of the tunnel. See it down in there? That welding is coming through from the other side. So that's how strong that weld will be. That's penetration. So the welder was turned up hot enough that it was burning all the way through and leaving a bead on the other side. So the metal on that joint is thicker than the original metal that was cut in half. So it's interesting. It's like I don't know if it's a wives' tale. If any doctors watch this, which is probably fat chance, you can tell me if it's true. I've broken over 20 bones. I think I've broken over 24 bones. And I can remember more than once the doctor saying where the bone fuses, it grows back stronger than where it was originally because there's more calcium there. I don't even know. I'm talking about you know what. But anyway, so I'm going to tell you right now, I welded this baby up so it healed like a bone. It's stronger than it was before. Don't believe what you see on YouTube. So anyway, that's what's done. I'm going to move the shifter back. I'll finish the welding. I'll get the shifter bushing in, and probably the next thing I'll do is a little bit of mock-up so we can see what this beast is going to look like. More about that later. Thanks again for watching. I honestly can't believe people want to see what I'm doing, but it's fun. Thank you.